The sub-series of Resident Evil, which is Revelations, did a complete 180 when it comes to portable consoles. The first game, Revelations 1, was designed ground up for the 3DS first, then ported to other consoles later. It allowed itself to flourish on that specific system, whereas Revelations 2 was designed for no specific console first, then downgraded to run on the PS Vita, resulting in one of the worst ways to play Revelations 2. This puts us at an interesting crossroads, which we will look at today, as I'd argue that while Revelations 1 on 3DS is the better port, Revelations 2 is definitely the better game. Rev 1 is a 3DS game first and foremost, and a console and PC game second, meaning that all other ports of the game pretty much take after the 3DS version. This explains why in terms of graphics, it really doesn't feel as far behind as it should be. The game is easily one of the best looking 3DS games out there, not to mention it runs at a smooth 30 FPS. This is the case whether you play it on new or old 3DS hardware. On 3DS, you also get an exclusive first-person aiming mode, which is pretty ahead of its time for Resident Evil, as such a thing would not be mainstream until RE7. Not to mention, of course, it's portable and can be played in 3D. I'd argue this is really the definitive way of playing Revelations 1. The other ports obviously can give you higher resolutions and frame rates, but then again, the game was made to feel its best on 3DS. In terms of controls, the game also has C-Stick and Circle Pad Pro support, which allows for 2 joysticks for proper aiming and movement controls. All in all, it's a great port and a solid package, as you of course get the main campaign and raid mode, which is something I'll get into in a bit. But gameplay-wise, Capcom did a lot better with Revelations 2. For Revelations 2, the PS Vita of course has the controls part held up, but is bogged down by the graphics and the frame rate. It was obviously not designed for the Vita first due to the console's low sales for 2015, which meant downgrading the initial version so it could run on the device. This results in a horrendous frame rate that is mostly in the low 20s, graphics that are set to their lowest, and long load times. I initially played Revelations 2 on the Vita, and despite the platform's shortcomings, I still found the sequel's campaign a lot more enjoyable than the first. I didn't beat it, I only made it through the first episode and 3/4 of the next because I wanted to give the campaign a fair shot and complete it on more capable hardware. More on that at the end of this video. However, on Vita, I would continue to thoroughly enjoy Revelations 2's raid mode. Raid mode is a side mode that RE Revelations offers. It's a bit different from Mercenaries. Raid mode takes you through a ton of stages and levels, has better enemy variety, allows you to use any character with any weapon. Characters can be leveled up, and new weapons can be bought and found as well as upgraded. In some ways, it feels like raid mode in Revelations 2 overshadows the main campaign. One of the mode's appeals is that you can sit down, level up and play for hours, or just play in short bursts. It's easy enough to pick up and put back down again. The PS Vita gets a better edge here, as Rev 2's raid mode is way more fun to play, not to mention it feels like the technical shortcomings aren't nearly as obtrusive in the raid mode as opposed to the main campaign. I could spend all day telling you why raid mode is so damn good and why it's better in Rev 2 than Rev 1, but we don't have time for that. That was a lot to take in, so let's summarize. To repeat myself earlier, Revelations 1 on 3DS is the better port, while Revelations 2 on Vita is the worst port but better game. If you're thinking of playing Rev 1, I'd say go for it on the 3DS, as that's where it feels the most enjoyable. Rev 2 is available on a wide variety of consoles, one of them being the Switch, so if you want it portable, there is an option. Also, it runs on most PCs pretty well, so a GPD Win or Steam Deck are a more than viable option. If you're forced to make the choice of getting one or the other, definitely get Rev 2, and if you have the luxury of playing both, then play one before 2, as vice versa might leave you a bit disappointed. I would go on to retry Revelations 2 on PC, and as of now, it's my favorite Resident Evil game. I recommend it way more so over Revelations 1. I like its campaign way more, and raid mode in Rev 2 has a fun addictiveness to it that also gives you a huge amount of content and gameplay.